po, ang pangalan ng aming grupo ang Burleywood. Ako si Michi.
Ako si Sarah.
Ako si Ryan.
Ako si Michael.
Kami po ay magpresenta ng mga Spanish-Filipinas kultura sa Pilipinas.
We are presenting over the Filipino-Mestizo group. The Mestizos can be found all over the Philippine Islands. The Mestizos we are focusing on today, though, are the Spanish Mestizos. I talked to a woman named Conchita, who is one of my mom's co-workers, and she's from the island Mindanao, where most of the Spanish Mestizos live. Mestizo is a word that describes a person of mixed race. So Filipino-Mestizo is a Filipino native and a European descent. In this case, it's Spanish. In 1521, the Spanish sailed in exploration and they came to the Philippines island, and they then took it as their colony, and that lasted for 365 years. When they came over, they brought their religion, they married with the natives there, and that's how Filipino-Mestizo people group began. The Philippines was later ceded over to America after the Spanish-American War in 1891. And they were under American rule until after World War II, and then they became their own country. The government of the Philippines is a republic with a president. It has three branches: executive, judicial, legislative. Just like America, there's several American influences. Just like the education that they adopted as well, they believe that every child should go to school. There's mass education in the Philippines, and they go from 7 to 5 o'clock every single day with an hour lunch break. They also started a program of higher education, so there's several more universities now in the Philippines, as well as nursing programs, which the person I interviewed, Conchita, actually went to nursing school in the Philippines before coming to America. So their health is very big. There's a Department of Health in the executive department, and the Secretary of Health is elected by the President. The Department of Health is responsible for ensuring access to basic public health care and regulations of all health services.
If you haven't noticed already, I'm not wearing something that I normally would. I'm wearing the traditional dress of the Philippines, the bato at saya. This is the bato, the shirt, and the saya is the skirt. Now this is traditional for many females, but it is not something for everyday use. It is only used for special occasions such as special birthdays, such as 18 and such, and then for weddings. For men, it is called the barong, and it's just a shirt with very translucent material like I have, but they can wear any kind of pants that they want. Now another kind of dress is the Maria Clara, which actually came from Jose Rizal's novel. In it, he had a character named Maria Clara, and out of it came out this dress. It's not that much different from mine. It has bigger sleeves, but it's not every day like this one is.
The daily life of a Filipino mestizo is that the father goes to work to support the family. The mother stays home and takes care of the children with the help of a maid. And the children are required to go to school from 7 to 5 with a 1-hour break for lunch.
A few big things not to do in the Filipino-Mestizo culture. One is never forget to greet the elders first. What you do is you go up to them and you ask for their blessing in a thing that's called mano po. You take their hand and you put it to your head and ask for their blessing. Also, never ask if they're mestizo. It's actually kind of a derogatory term to them.
The university students of the Filipino-Mestizo people group like to do sports like softball, volleyball. They do that for entertainment. They like to do karaoke. They watch movies. Movies over there are only $2, so they're pretty cheap to go and watch. Filipino Mestizos like to listen to artists that we listen to, like Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran, One Direction, but some Filipino artists that they listen to are Sarah Geronimo and Vice Ganda.
The national language of the Philippines is Tagalog. The Mestizo actually use this language because it is a national language, and because they're mixed cultures, they would technically speak both languages. So the main language they would use is Tagalog. Now, Tagalog does have a lot of Spanish influences, but it has become its own language. In the Philippines, English is also widely used. It's their second national language. They use it for textbooks, and so every Filipino child in school has to learn English. And because everyone knows English and everyone knows Tagalog, they actually merge the two when they're talking, and most people actually speak a mix called Taglish. It's not intentional really, it's just how they talk. Now, in Tagalog, it's actually quite like other Asian languages where you have a normal, casual language and then you have a formal language. Now, if you remember from the introductions, I said, "Kamusta po?" Now, the word po is actually what you say in a formal situation, like to an elder. If you were to talk normally to someone, you would just say, "Kamusta?" which is hello, how are you? One of the most famous heroes in the Philippines is Jose Rizal. He was a doctor that got the chance to study in Manila and Madrid. And while he was in Madrid, he noticed how harsh the Spaniards were to the Filipinos, so he wrote the political satire Noli Me Tangere, which is also called The Social Cancer. In it, he started to portray the difference in the cultures and how they were taking over the original Filipino culture. And he was trying to show that the Philippines had a culture from even before the Spaniards were there. He ended up writing 2 sequels, and after he wrote both of them, he realized that he needed to go back home. So he went back to the Philippines, and when he got back to Manila, he started the nonviolent political protest group, Liga Filipina. And with that group, he started a reform movement, which was really great until the Spaniards couldn't take it anymore and they imprisoned him. And they ended up executing him in 1896. Now, Rizal never advocated for Filipino independence. He always advocated for Spanish reform. But after his execution, the Filipinos realized that they would never get the reform and that they needed their independence. Now, in modern culture, we actually do have some famous mestizos out there. Ones you may have not known are Enrique Iglesias, who is a famous Spanish singer, and Vanessa Hudgens, who is known for her work on High School Musical.
The primary religion of the Filipino-Mestizo is Roman Catholic due to the Spanish influence.
Filipino Mestizos hold a Christian worldview, with their word for God being May Kapal. Also, growing up, they were taught about the 10 Commandments and that God only gave them 10 commands in their daily lives.
One of the many things the Spaniards brought to the Philippines was food. Many of the traditional stews that they had actually burned to the Filipinos, and now we have Spanish Filipino food, but it's actually normal Filipino food. Some of this is menudo, which is just like rice, the meat. It's a breakfast dish, basically. It's very normal, but it does have, with the Spanish influence of their spices. Another one is arroz caldo, which is a rice porridge. It's used for like when you're sick or you're not feeling well. Another one is afritada. It's another one of those stews. It can be pork or chicken. Picadilla is another stew. Estofada, stew, caldereta, stew. They brought a lot of stews basically when they came to the Philippines.
Unique values that the Filipino Mestizos have is that they are very family-oriented. Also, when the children are growing up, they do not have to leave the house until they are married, even if they are working.
One major difference between us and the Mestizo people is sometimes the way our delivery of sentences can come off is a little more blunt than theirs. And so when we say something, it can be misunderstood and taken wrongly.